Welcome to Pathways to Greatness, where we explore the journeys of exceptional individuals who have achieved remarkable success in their fields. Whether you're an aspiring athlete, a business leader, or simply someone striving to reach your full potential, this podcast is your guide to unlocking the greatness within you. Join us as we dive into inspiring stories, practical strategies, and the mindset shifts that can transform your path to greatness. Let's embark on this journey together. Hey, everybody, it's Jeff, your host of Pathways to Greatness. Surprise, surprise, it's me. Today's episode is awesome. So I have one of the co-founders of Unparalleled Performance, Michael Mannix, and he's also the co-author of the 5 L's, The Gift of a Balanced Life, Your Pathway to Personal and Professional Success. And I'm telling you, this one is chock full of tactical things that you can use, as well as Michael challenges you with the 5 L's of what you need to do to make sure that you feel fulfilled and that you're the best version of yourself. And you know that that's near and dear to my heart because that's part of what my book is called, Unleash Potential. And the 5 L's, just to give you a glimpse into what those look like, you have love, laughter, labor, leisure, and leave. So we focus a lot on leisure and leave. And I'm not going to tell you all the things that we discuss, but I dig into that because I feel like these are the two things that I know I struggle with. But a lot of the people that I speak with on a regular basis, they struggle with leisure. So me time and we time, as he talks about, but then also leave, change management. So when is it time? So without further ado, I don't want to steal any more of his thunder. We have a great conversation full of energy. As you can tell, I'm all pumped up and excited. I love being around people like Michael. So, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Mannix. All right. So we are back to another episode of Pathways to Greatness. And today is another great networking opportunity that I had to meet through Dom Dombowski. And it was so amazing that we had the conversation. He's like, I've got a guy that I want you to meet. And so connected with Michael Mannix, and we had a nice conversation, probably 30, 45 minutes, something like that. And just blown away, not only by the amount of knowledge that he shared in that small amount of time, but his support and his eagerness to want to help see me succeed, which goes back to just who he is and why he's a great guy. So Michael, welcome today.
Oh, Jeff, thanks so much for having me. Super excited to be here.
Okay, now before we get into the professional stuff, I like to ease everybody in by playing a game called Would You Rather. You ready?
Okay. Oh boy, I always get in trouble. Okay. All right.
It's a fun version. It's a family show.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you rather freeze time or go back in time?
Ooh. Go back in time.
Okay, why so?
I'm a crazy history nerd. Love everything about it. And I would love to be able to go back in time just to be able to see some of that incredible history. Was that what you were saying is back in time, or just back in time as far as my lifetime?
Whatever you want to do, man. It's your answer. So,
well, my lifetime, I'd love to be able to correct some mistakes, but obviously those mistakes made me the person I am today. So, that's why I take that out of the equation. I would love to be able to go back and just see some of the incredible stuff that I just geek out of when I'm watching, Discovery Channel or History Channel or any of that stuff. So that's why I would love to be able to go back in time.
Is there, if you had one time period to go back to, which one, what's the first one that just pops to your mind? Because you're going to regret going, oh, what I'd like to go here, there. But if you just, the first one that came to your mind, what would that be?
Probably Roman times. I'm a huge Rome, Greece, that whole kind of discovery of knowledge. And, it was at Greece, actually. I just came back from it. So I'm geeking out over Greece and Spartans and all that kind of fun stuff. But to me, that's when, democracy was starting. That was when, not on the Rome side, but on the Greek side. And they were really just trying to get more to develop the intellectual side and really just kind of grow from there. And, also going to those places, the technology they had back then was a lot greater than people realize. And it's amazing to me, like, where did we lose it? because there was a period where a lot of the things that they had in their day to day. I mean, they had a lot. They had running water, they had toilets, they had everything that we have today. I mean, obviously they didn't have lights, but they had systems that did create light in their homes, and it was just really cool for me to see that. But then there just seems to be a missing gap somewhere where we lost a lot of that, and we should have jumped ahead further. But anyway, that's why I'd love to go back to those times.
Yeah, and you bring up a really cool point. And when you were talking, I was thinking just the word discovery kept popping into my mind. Is that was that strive to discover, that strive to try to find better ways to do things. And I feel like we're still in that, but I feel like that's a small minority of people who have that discovery, curiosity mindset. The first person I think of is like Elon Musk, of just how do we make things better? How do we make things more efficient? And you look at some of these and people roll their eyes, good and well, when a Roman said, hey, I've got this idea for an aqueduct and we can have running water. They probably thought those people were nuts.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And they actually did it, which was incredible. And through areas you would be like, well, how did they do that? Because just from the terrain itself, it didn't lend to being something easy to do.
Yeah. And it encourages me to hear you say that, because we have to instill that curiosity and strive to try to make things better, or even make ourselves better. And it takes work, and it takes people looking at you like you're a weirdo, because again, if you're trying to break out of that mold of what normal society is saying that you should be, you're going to be looked at strangely.
Oh, absolutely. Well, obviously we kind of approach everything with cognitive bias, right? So we also, as humans, I'm going to geek out on you. I told you, Jeff, I'm a science data geek.
I love it.
We're pre-programmed to go negative. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people might not know that. That's why the news is so negative, because they know it drives ratings. Because back from prehistoric times, from just a pure survival standpoint, we're programmed to approach every situation as potentially dangerous. So that's why generally our mindset goes negative first, right? So anyone that's trying to do something new or something better, people bring that cognitive bias to the table, be like, that just doesn't make sense to me, right? And thank God we do have visionaries that just keep pushing forward, or we wouldn't be where we are, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's all. See, I love these questions because I never know where they're going to go. It's fantastic. You're already a great guest. This is fantastic. I love it.
There. I'm trying.
Okay. Would you rather live without music or TV?
Oh, TV.
What do you like to listen to?
Believe it or not, I listen to almost everything. I love music. I've loved music since I can't remember when. I don't want to even say how long, because then I would really date myself. But I love music. I was actually in bands in high school and college. We even did a little bit of the bar circuit when we were in college. And I just love it. I used to write music. And to me, it's something that's also very, it's been a part of us probably from the beginning of time, right? There's always been some sort of music that has moved people. And that's I think the other thing too. Music can really drive your emotion. It can lift you up. It can bring you down. It can get you excited. There's all these great things about music. So for me, I would take music every day of the week. And also music kind of gives you that escape. Like if you close your eyes, it can take you back in time to where, you first heard that song as well. And I think, while I love TV, don't get me wrong, it kind of spoon feeds you, right? Television, it is what it is on TV, and you're seeing it and you're hearing it, and you can just kind of zone out. But when it's music, I just think it does something to you, it touches you, right? So I listen to almost everything. I've actually, believe it or not, gotten more into country. A friend of mine,
okay.
And I'm digging it. And then I went to Nashville with my wife, and not a huge country fan. I came back loving country.
You're right.
So, but I listen to everything. I mean, from rock to pop to anything. I just love music.
So when you were in a band, what were some of your favorite songs to play? Because I would assume you covered a lot. What would be
Oh,
some of those that you really enjoyed playing?
oh my God, we covered so much. It was really bad. Well, again, I'm going to really date myself. It was like 80s rock, right? So we did a lot of the 80s rock back then. We actually did some of our own stuff too, which I wrote, and then my guitarist wrote the music for it. I wrote all the lyrics. So those were the things that we did the most. But trying to think, we would do. I know this is going to sound lame, but one of my more favorite songs was the Outfield.
Okay.
Yeah, so we would go do the Outfield songs, and Josie's on a vacation far away. Your love, right? So that's a
Yeah.
fun song. But we'd also do like Night Ranger and stuff like that. So anything that was just fun, right? And could get the crowd going. That was another thing too. We love to get the crowd going.
Oh, for sure. I mean, why do it if you're not? I mean, that's what
Right. Yeah, a little bit
it
of ego
feeds
there.
the soul.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
Well, I finally saw Bohemian Rhapsody on a flight, and I had not watched it, and I don't know how old the movie is. It's old, but in watching it, you sit there and you see, like, at the end when he goes out at Live Aid and he's
Yes.
standing in front of hundreds of thousands of people, like what that would do to your adrenaline. Like, how do you not just get addicted to that?
Oh my God, right? I mean, that is, yeah, that it is. It's pure addiction. Because could you imagine that energy that's coming off the audience at you? It's like it's amazing. And he absorbed it. He loved it. That's what he fed off of. And Freddie Mercury was such a talent. I mean, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and there's no wonder they talk about the arrogance of these rock stars and musicians that stand out there. Imagine standing at the center of a stage and there's tens of thousands of people that paid a lot of money just to come see you perform. Like, to me, that's, you've got to be really grounded in the 5 L's to understand how you need to really stay locked in and on your own. Because it would be nerve wracking, but it would be absolutely amazing. And that's like with sports, like running out of the tunnel and 100,000 people are cheering for you. But as many that are going to cheer, you mess up once, you're going to get 100,000 boos.
Oh yeah. That's true. Well, that's also because they know how much you're getting paid. So
Right. I still get boos and I don't get paid what they do.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Okay. So would you rather have pizza or tacos?
Pizza every day of the week. I believe that is God's perfect food. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
For sure. Do you
Yeah.
have toppings that are your go-to?
You know what? I love most toppings. I am not an anchovy guy, but I do love everything else on pizza. Not big on the pineapple, but do love the ham. I'll eat anything on pizza basically, except for those few items. But or a good margarita pizza, or anything. Grandma's slices. To me, pizza is just literally. I believe it's God's gift to the universe. I mean, it's just.
Well,
Depending if it's good pizza, though. Good pizza.
Yes. I was going to say, not surprising everybody. He's in the New York City area. So
Yeah.
he's very biased when it comes to pizza. But I mean,
Yeah.
they've got good taco. I mean, New York City's got amazing food. So is
Sure, yeah.
there, we'll give someone a shameless plug. Is there a particular pizza place that you like to go to the most?
Oh yeah, right here. I live in Port Washington, out on Long Island, and there's a small Italian pizzeria slash restaurant called Carlo's, and their pizza is absolutely incredible. They've actually won awards for it, but it's by far my most favorite pizza. And and as you said, I worked in Manhattan for 30 years. I mean, there's pizza places everywhere, and still, this is my favorite. It's my go-to for sure.
That's great. All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Last question. If you
Sure.
came with a warning label, what would it say?
If I came with a warning label.
That's right.
Oh wow, that's a really good one. Probably caution, a lot of energy.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have. When I say energy, I'm not talking in an ADD or an ADHD way. And I'm not disparaging anyone that has that, because I have folks, including my son, that have that. But energy, and I get excited when I'm passionate about something, and I love to get people excited as well too. So if if anyone ever attends one of my trainings or one of my seminars or one of my keynotes, I get the audience involved, right? I'm out there in the audience and I get people excited. And, when some of the folks are taking maybe my training at 8 o'clock in the morning and I'm getting them going right away, I actually joke. I'm like, I know I'm a little too much for you right now, but I'll be your morning caffeine. And then everyone laughs and then we bring it up from there. But I would probably say that'd be the first one on the warning label. Yeah.
No, that's great. I love it.
Yeah.
I've had very interesting answers.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. I could go deeper, but that'd probably be a therapy session.
It's a fun question. It's definitely
It is
a fun
question. I actually like that.
Well, everybody, like I said, this is Michael Mannix, and he is one of the authors of the 5 L's, the gift of a balanced life, your pathway to personal and professional success. So it had pathway in there, so I knew it was going to be perfect for the show. And he's also the co-founder of Unparalleled Performance. Like he said, he does trainings and seminars and keynotes. And I'll have all the information that you can go to and find about Michael if you're interested in his services. But when we first started talking, you were sharing the 5 L's. And like I told you before we started to record, today's selfish for me is you had shared the 5 L's to me in our brief conversation. And I wanted to learn more. And I know that typically if I want to know more, there's somebody else that's listening that's going to want to know more as well. So Michael, first, give people a little bit of your background that brought you away from 30 years of corporate work and into this now training, consulting, and being an author world.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for that, Jeff. So as I mentioned when we first chatted, I didn't grow up with money. We struggled a lot, and I was going to be successful if it killed me, and it almost did. I put myself in the hospital 3 times that I'll admit to. It was more. And that was because I was just driving. And I was probably in every position you could think of, from HR to recruiting to training, then into field operations for a large global business outsourcing company, to running half the country, then being the chief sales officer and getting the C-suite title, and then running most of the country and all this kind of fun stuff, and traveling around the country and traveling around the globe. And when I say fun stuff, I'm being sarcastic, because I was just drive. And my father, who was my hero, as I mentioned to you, would tell me, Mike, you're missing it. The true measure of success is gauged on the amount of lives you touch and leave for the better. And I didn't listen. In my mind, Dad wasn't successful, typical son. All right, Dad. And I go on my merry way. And it wasn't until about 14, almost 15 years ago now, that I was sitting with my dad in a hospital, actually a doctor's office. And a doctor came in who we knew for about 20 years and told my father that he had stage 4 cancer and he had 2 months left to live. And it was such a rare form of cancer, they didn't even know how to treat it. And my dad, being my dad, was like, well, that's not going to happen. And he fought it for 2 years. And my dad was a pharmacist by trade. He was captain of the volunteer ambulance crew, hence some of the money issues. And he was also an adjunct professor like myself, but he taught paramedics, and he was teaching people how to save other folks' lives. And it doesn't get cooler than that. And very quickly, Dad could not practice pharmacy nor ride the ambulance because he just got so sick. But Dad was going to change lives right to the end. And that's exactly what he did. He taught to almost the very last day, even if it was from a chair. And unfortunately, when he did lose his battle, we held a wake for him for about 3, almost 4 nights. And Jeff, I've never seen it turn out like this in my life. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people every single night, out the door and around the block. People going back as far as 40 years we hadn't seen. 80% of them were his students. And they each came up to me one time and said, your dad changed my life. And that was my aha moment when I woke up and realized Dad had it right. I have it wrong. He's the most successful man I will ever meet. And that's what kind of started me down this journey. And that's when I started taking a different approach of how can I help change people's lives for the better. I always had the teaching bug. So even when I was in corporate and I was sitting on the executive board, I was always involved in the interns and all that kind of stuff. But this heightened it for me. So that's when I started teaching at NYU, and I teach, leadership and management development and anything that gives people tools. I give my students the tools I wish someone gave me 30 years ago. No methodology, just real tools that's going to help change their lives. And it wasn't until I met my business partner 5 years ago, Sal. He's actually the creator of the 5 L's. And we were at a cocktail party, and he tells the story much better than I do. And he's very, very funny when he does it. But we were at a cocktail party at his house, and the 5Ls came up by accident because he had gotten a phone call where someone was resigning on him. And then he comes back out, and his wife's like, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "Oh, Max just resigned." And she's like, well, that's your last L. Leave. And he's like, "Well, thanks, Captain Obvious." And I'm like, "Whoa, wait a minute. Wait. What's this last L?" And then he took me through the 5Ls, and I was just mind blown. Now, keep in mind, I just met the man. My wife knew his wife, and that's why I was there. And I literally, and when I talk about energy, I started jumping up and down. "You've got to write a book. This is the best thing I've ever heard. Oh my God, you could change people's lives. This is fantastic. I live, eat, and breathe this stuff. I teach it. Dude, you need to write a book." And his response was like, "How much have you had to drink?" And then it was, "I'll read one. I won't write one." Long story short is I showed up at his house that Monday, after work, whiteboards under arm. I'm like, "Write the book, right?" And we realized very quickly that if we really, because Sal was in the same mindset, he wanted to change lives. And if we were going to change lives, we had to get out there and do it. It wasn't going to be just a book. And a book is a tool. It's not the change agent. So that's when we formed Unparalleled Performance. And we've literally been traveling around the US. We have global clients as well. And we go into organizations and we teach people the 5Ls and give them tools to deal with stress, anxiety, and burnout so they can find true work-life balance. And it has been received with such overwhelming, just incredible positive feedback. Clients just coming up to us on a continuous basis going, "You were absolutely amazing, exceeded every expectation." But I have to tell you, Jeff, the thing that drives me is when someone comes up to me after a book signing or after one of my keynotes or a training or one of our wellness workshops in tears. I'm like, "Oh my God, I needed this so much. You changed my life." And that is everything to me. And that's why I left my career of 30 years to do this full time, because I finally found my purpose. I found my why. I finally found why I'm here and what I'm meant to do. And everybody says to me, it's evident when I'm actually out there doing it. So you said like Freddie Mercury being on stage, that was his why. That's why he was here. He came to life when he was out on the stage. And I'm the same way when I'm teaching or doing a keynote or anything. You can't describe it. I mean, the feeling is just absolutely amazing. And that's what's led me here, and lucky enough to chat with you.
Man, that's awesome. And I was getting emotional when you were talking about just, that those aha moments, those moments of awareness that happened. And, that's one of the reasons why I created Pathways to Greatness, is to have people on like yourself to share different stories and different perspectives to show that everybody's pathway is different, but also everybody's definition of greatness is different. And what you said so beautifully is your definition shifted.
Totally.
And I want people to hear what you said. So if you need to go back and rewind. But what it was is you had a perception of greatness that existed of the name on the board, the title on the business card, the salary, probably, all those things that equipped you for this stage. But then you looked at the simpleness of your father's life, and the impact that he had was just helping other people. So not only was he equipping people who wanted to help other people, paramedics, he actually was helping those people as well as a pharmacist and a paramedic. So it's like you can't help but increase and compound your impact when you just want to help other people.
Absolutely.
To me, there's nothing more noble than that. And for people who are afraid to write a book or don't want to lead seminars, don't feel like you can't impact other people. Mm-hmm. You can, just with a kind word on a daily basis. So thank you for that wonderful recap of how you got to where you are today. And so I know we've got everybody on the edge of their seat to hear what the 5Ls are and to go more into it, because again, I want people to hear different perspective, because I know that there's going to be people in the audience that are listening and then watching on YouTube that are going to have the same reaction that they do when they sit in the seat at your seminar of, man, I needed this today. And I have a feeling one of those people is going to be me. So I'll stop talking and allow you to share a little bit more about the 5Ls.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, let me back up and tell everyone real quick where the 5Ls actually came from. So Sal very much like myself, did not come from money, was going to be successful if it killed him. And butcher son from the Bronx, first in his family to go to college. And he became a partner at a very large firm called KPMG. Everyone knows who KPMG is. So Sal made partner, probably, I think he was one of the youngest partners. And every year they choose a partner and they send them off to Harvard to go to the leadership development program. And Sal's very first class was the psychology of success. And in this class is C-suites from all over the globe, CEOs, CHROs, CIOs, EIEIOs, more vowels than you can imagine. And the professor gets up in front of this group and says, how do you define success? And Sal's like, oh, I am success. I made partner. I have the financial freedom. I'm good. I am success. And what he started to hear very quickly from other people was, well, how about being a better person? How about being a better partner or being a better parent? And these were kind of foreign at the time for Sal. Anyway, this goes on for, the semester. And at the end, the professor comes back and says, well, thank you for all the data points. I collected them all from you. Had probably a few hundred data points, but I got them down to, I think, a workable number that everyone can use. And he goes, you need 10 things in your life to be successful. 10. And Sal's like, 10? I thought it was 2. How am I going to go back to the partnership at KPMG and be like, hey guys, money well spent sending me to Harvard. Very successful people. You need 10 things more to be successful. He's like, they'll laugh me right out of the partnership. So he realized quickly, looking at, wow, some of these overlap. If I could get them down to a reasonable number, something, that everyone could remember, something I could never forget. If I could get them down to 5 fingers, 5 toes, I could never forget that. Well, wait a minute. Some of these start with the letter L. Well, that's my last name, LaGreca. If I could get them all to start with L, I'd never forget this thing. So here's Sal's 5 L's, high level. And what the 5 L's is, before I get into it, is the 5 L's is a science-supported program that gives people real tools to deal with stress, anxiety, and burnout so they can find true work-life balance. And that's where I come in. I'm the science data geek. I brought all the tools and the science and all that kind of stuff, working with Sal to help bring it to life. And that's why he asked me to co-author the book with him. So if anyone does pick up a copy, it's my fault that all the science and the tools are in there, but there's lots of other great things. There's interviews that we did and all of our experience and a lot of really great stories. And everyone that has read it, comes up to me and tells me it's absolutely amazing and a life changer and a resource they're going to use for the rest of their life. But so here's the 5 L's, high level. The first L is love. Without it, all else fails. But I have to tell you, Jeff, when I ask an audience, what's the first thing you think of when you hear the word love? Most people will name something other than themselves. And that's the problem. So there's such a thing called the oxygen mask theory, and we teach that. And that's basically when an oxygen mask drops, who do you put it on? It's not the person next to you, it's you. And that lies the problem, because people don't realize you're no good to anyone unless you take care of yourself first. And I have to be totally honest with you. I didn't do that. I'm a caretaker by nature. I take care of everyone and I make it better and I send them on their merry way and I come second. And to be totally transparent, I did that for the longest time because I didn't think I was worth it. So I put everyone else first. But that's the key. And that's what all of the 5 L's roll up into. They all roll up into self-love. That's where it starts. Then underneath that is, obviously proper relationships and then love of what you do. So that's the first L, it's love. The second L is laughter. Do not take yourself too seriously. You're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. And one of the things that we would ask an audience is, well, who's your biggest critic? And everyone's like, oh, that's me. Well, why is that? If you're waiting for someone else to make you happy, you're going to be waiting a very long time. So stop beating yourself up. Be your biggest advocate. Stop caring so much what other people think. That's the big thing, right? And the other thing in laughter is using proper stress management tools. So that's love, laughter. The fourth L is labor. We're built to work. We're wired to produce. So if we're going to do something that gives you passion, that gives you purpose in your life. It only took me almost 50 years to figure out my passion and purpose and start doing it full time. But a lot of times people don't develop their passion or they don't have something for themselves. And that's the way we look at labor. Labor should be self-development, right? Stop looking at it as a job that you hate. Look at it as self-development on you and finding something that gives you fuel. So it's love, laughter, labor. The fourth L is leisure, the L that we all, well, I don't want to say all, most of us will sacrifice first. So I worked for an organization where it was a use it or lose it policy, right? If you didn't use your time off, you lost it at the end there. You didn't carry it over. And we got 23 days. I probably left 21 on the table every year. And that was because 2 days I was just too sick to come in. And pre-COVID audience, please don't judge me. I was coming in sick on the other days. Right? Now everyone stays home when they're sick, which is a good thing. But that's finding your me time is critical. And that goes, again, it all goes back up into self-love and recharging your batteries. I mean, we carry these stupid things with us. When this goes down to 20%, people lose their minds. I got to charge this thing. And they go running and they will ask 10 people, do you have a charger? Do you have a charger? I mean, there's people in the airport tethered to the walls with their chargers, right? Because that's important. You can't tell me your device is more important than you are. You know when you get down to 20%. So you need to recharge your batteries and finding that in your life. And we teach folks tools on that. And the last L, by far, which is the hardest for most people, is leave. And it's knowing when to adjust the sails and change course. And that could be anything. That could be a bad decision that you've made, or you're holding on to something too long from the past. It could be a bad relationship, could be a bad job, could be anything. But it's holding you back because you're too scared to move forward. And that's the biggest thing that stops people, is the fear of change, right? And there's 3 things you can count on in life, and it's death, taxes, and change. It's going to come whether you want it or not. So one of the things that we found were the people that were the most balanced, that were the happiest, they saw change as opportunity and they embraced it. And that's what makes the difference. And change for us is really, let me go back. Leave is about change management. And that we give folks lots of tools on how to actually do change in their life. And that's the 5 L's high level. So it's love, laughter, labor, leisure, leave. And this is what we do. We say alone they have purpose, but together in a balanced fashion. So if these were all 5 L's on my fingers, and folks can't see it on the, if they're listening on a podcast, but what you do is you take your dominant hand. Those are all 5 L's. You take your other hand, and if you intertwine your fingers, that's all 5 L's working together because they overlap. They don't start or end. And this is when you're strong. It's when you only have 1 L in your life, like Sal and I had, which was just labor. That's when everything falls apart. And when you have all these 5 L's in a balanced fashion, you can get through just about anything. But it's a choice. You have to get up every day and choose balance. And there's going to be days your different L's are going to be off. And that's why we've actually developed a self-assessment tool that sits on our website that you can save to your phone, and you answer 10 questions under each L, and it'll show you, a bar chart will come up and it'll show you where you're off and where you need to refocus.
That's good stuff. I love it. I geek out on data as well. And just to remind the audience, it's love, laughter, labor, leisure, and leave.
Yeah.
And what I really want to focus on, because I feel like that a lot of times in social media and on the web, people would probably know a lot of the self-love things, even though we're all terrible at it.
Yep.
Laughter is one of those things. Again, I think people they teeter, and that's probably not as difficult. Labor, doing something that you're passionate about, is one of those things that I think people are seeking in here. But the last 2, I want to dig into deeper and get some of the real practical things that you help people with, like
Sure.
around leisure.
Yep.
Leisure, that, like you said, is really difficult. And again, being transparent like you, is if I have to look at leisure for me, it really, I guess by definition, I don't have any. I get my workout in, which is like 30 to 45 minutes. We spend all of our time with our kids, which, I consider as quote unquote leisure, but it's not really that recharge that you talked about that is necessary. And I wish we had a battery, how much percent we have left to know, all right, it's time to plug in. And usually it's already dead and screaming at you, or you just collapse on the floor or go to the hospital when you're at empty. So help the audience with some of your practical suggestions and things that they can use to help them identify leisure in their life.
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, when we talk about leisure, we talk about me time. And what does that me time mean? And me time can be anything that speaks to you where you just shut off the world. It could even be for 5 minutes, Jeff, because there are folks that have just these crazy, crazy lives. And we even work with doctors and, people in the medical profession that are just running, and on all the time. And these are folks that literally have life or death situations. Most of us out there, and when we're teaching these stress management tools, the decisions that we're making, folks aren't going to die, right? Or live. The medical profession is just incredibly filled with stress. So even if it's 5 minutes where you just shut off the world, you could do deep breathing, you could take a walk, you could do meditation, you could journal. It could be anything that helps you kind of just get the noise out and start to recharge your batteries. So it's different for everyone. So me time for me is, to your point, is working out. That's my me time. That's when I don't like working out, but I do it every morning because it puts my head in a whole other place, right? Oh, by the way, my me time is, so folks out there, if you're using your phone as your alarm clock, no bueno. And I'll tell you why. So this thing goes off, and the first thing you do, you're not even vertical, you are letting the world in. You haven't even sat up and you're already checking your social or you're checking your work email, and that is no good. I have actually stopped using my phone. I have an alarm clock. My phone's across the room. And the first 45 minutes of my day is mine. I don't look at email. I don't look at social. The first thing I do, and I've set a morning routine, and this is also part of my me time. I get up, I drink a big, big bottle of water because it gets me hydrated. Or also helps if I've had too much me time the night before. And then after that, I go work out, right? And, you and I work out probably longer than most folks, but what I tell people is you're worth 20 minutes, right? Aren't you worth 20 minutes? 20 minutes of cardiovascular exercise will literally change your brain chemistry, everything going on inside of you, put you in a whole other headspace, and the health benefits are insane. Just 20 minutes. So I do much more than that, but I work out and then I meditate and I journal. And if I can't do all three, I work out, because that is the number one stress management tool. Sal's me time used to be golf. Now it's making a nice pot of sauce with Sinatra in the background and a glass of wine. Everyone likes his me time better than mine. Don't know why. But anyway, but it's finding that. And there's also we time. So one of the things that we talk about when people are in a work situation is, how about grabbing a colleague and saying, hey, let's take a walk outside. Let's get outside. Let's get in the sun. Even doing a little grounding, taking your shoes off and, getting yourself in the grass if it's possible, if you have grass. But if you're in Manhattan, no grass. But there are ways to just get out and walk and clear your heads. Get away from your desk. Newsflash, it's going to be there when you come back. And here's another piece of news that I hope everyone hears, because this was the guy that never shut off. I work for a global company I was on all the time, and it's part of what put me in the hospital. If you work yourself into the ground and you don't take time off, your company will go on without you. And unfortunately, your family might have to go on without you. So the people that you're working the hardest for are unfortunately going to be the ones that are going to suffer most if you're not around. And that was me, right? So when we talk about leisure, it's looking at it as an investment in you. Just like you recharge your batteries, when you start. And here's the other thing too, just like on a phone, do you ever notice, Jeff, when you're stressed out, right, your energy drains faster? It's just like on a phone. When you have a lot of apps open, that's you when you're stressed out, right? The phone drains faster, you drain faster. It's the same thing. So it's knowing you need those me times throughout the day. And here's another tip. Schedule it. Put it on your calendar and protect it like it's the most important meeting of your day. Because guess what? It is. So right now and what they found is people that take, and this was right out of a Harvard Business Review, people that take 10 days off a year, just 10, they have a 34.5% chance of getting an increased raise or bonus. People that take more than 10 days off have a 65.7% chance of getting an increased raise or bonus, because they're bringing their best selves to work. You're actually more productive if you work 40 minutes, take a 5-minute break, work another 40 minutes, take a 10-minute break, and your productivity level will shoot through the roof because you're giving yourself that opportunity. But the whole thing goes back to self-love. It's stop sacrificing it. It's not selfish. It's actually selfless. You'll be a much better person. I'm a much happier, nicer person to be around. Oh my God, Jeff, my caution would have been intense guy. Warning, can be very intense. I was very intense. I was like, I was going to be successful. I was going to have the C title, nice house, nice car, blah, blah, blah. And I got it all. And I was miserable. And I was never there for the people that needed me most. So those are just a little bit of nuances that we teach. There's much more than that, but just to give folks a flavor.
Yeah, no, it's so good about leisure. And a lot of the things that you talked about is again, I know that you geek out on all this stuff, it's the habit loop, is how you react to stress. Is a lot of times we just try to get into another stressful situation and we just keep compounding that, versus like you said, is if you feel the stress and you have that trigger, is ask yourself what is the trigger? What's causing that for you to reach to something that's unhealthy, and replace it with, you know what? I'm feeling stressed. I need to take 3 minutes. I'm going to listen to a song and just relax. Yeah. And then you're going to get back into it. I had a really good friend share a great tactic with me. And this is for people, not just in the workforce, but don't bring your last meeting into your next meeting. Is just find a way to just decompress from that one. And so that comes down to little tips of, if you schedule a meeting, have 15 minutes on either side. So don't go, because the corporate world, I've had an Outlook calendar that's shared with everybody in the department. As soon as they find a sliver that's available, they're going to jam a meeting in. So you're meeting after meeting after meeting, and you end up not being able to go to the bathroom, not being able to eat, and you're just fried at the end of the day. And all you've done is gone meeting after meeting, and you're not productive. So I hope everybody, again, heard what Michael had to say, because it is critical to learn different tips and real world strategies of how to manage that. And like you said, it's not selfish. You owe it to you, and you owe it to your team and your family to find those opportunities to show up as your best self and find what works best for you. Okay. The next one that I know that is going to be very difficult for some, and I know this could end up being an 8-hour long mini series around leave, but it's about when to change course, because I struggle with that one as well, because it's like employees, I always felt like you, I love to coach people. I love to help them, but I always had that feeling of I can save them. But there comes a time where there's just change needs to happen. And somebody told me, you can't save every puppy from the pound. And it's difficult, but also I'm following my passion, Michael, but I haven't made any progress in the last 5 years. So when is it time to change? Because some people are like, well, you just didn't wait long enough, but at some point you have to make that decision. So I did a lot of rambling because I'm excited to hear your point of view on this one. So talk to us about leave and when to make that change management.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that I start out by saying right out of the gates is why do people avoid change? Why do they avoid it like the plague? And the answer is fear. And what is it fear of? Well, it's fear of failure. It's fear of the unknown. And what Sal and I like to call it is familiar misery, right? It's something that hasn't killed you yet. And you wrap it around yourself like a big warm blanket, and you're like, oh my God, this hasn't killed me yet. That could be worse, right? And the news flash is the devil that is still the devil. And, people live with regret, and they live with avoiding change because, number one, they care too much what other people think. Stop it. Okay. You need to make change in your life sometimes for the better, and it's going to be painful. Change is challenging. Here's the other thing. I always say to a group, have you ever procrastinated and gotten mad at yourself for doing it? And everyone shoots their hand up, right? Here's the thing, and I wish someone taught me this longer ago. I had to learn this one on myself through all the studies I was doing. It's just like what we talked about before with fear, right? We're pre-programmed to avoid it because it's a fight or flight mechanism. So we're going to avoid change, and we're going to do everything in our power, including self-sabotage, not to make the change. And what we found is that the good news is you realize you're programmed that way to avoid change. And as I mentioned prior, it's such a thing called neuroplasticity. That means once you realize you have a problem, you can reprogram your brain just like a computer if you have the proper tools. And those are the tools that we give folks. So, but let's back up to your original question. When do you know it's time to make the change? If you get really quiet, right, and you sit back and you take a look, you're going to feel it in your gut when it's time to make the change. Just because you feel it doesn't mean it might always be the right time, because timing is everything, right? So, but it's planning for that change. And what we teach folks are, first, let's talk about from a personal standpoint. If you want to change yourself, you look at the future you, right? You put that on one side of the paper. You put the current you here on the other side. And in the middle, you draw two lines, and that's called the gap. And you do a gap analysis. And you take a look at the future you and the person you want to be like, and you write all the attributes down in the gap. Once you do that, you create an action development plan. That's another thing that we teach folks, and we give them the tool that you actually have to physically write down. And the first 10, okay, need to be short-term goals, because you have to feel that activity. You have to feel the momentum, right? But after every 5, you need to celebrate. That's the key. If you don't celebrate, you won't continue, because when you celebrate, dopamine gets released. We love dopamine. It makes us feel good, right? So what happens over time is you accomplish 5, celebrate dopamine, another 5, celebrate dopamine. And then what you start to get in your head is, wow, accomplishment makes me feel good. And then you crave it, right? So those are the things that we teach in our action plans, are 15 simple steps. So, but it's really being self-reflective. And most of the time, you know when something's not good for you. You know when you're hanging on to something too long from the past, or you know when you're in a toxic relationship, or you know when you're not pursuing your why. And I think that was the challenge for me. I worked for a company. I was with my last organization 22 years. Wonderful company. Love the people I worked with. Had a very big role in the company. Everything I wanted, but it wasn't my why. And that's why I was never happy, and why I felt so empty. And it wasn't until I figured out my why, and I didn't leave right away. It wasn't like, oh, yay, I found my why, 5 L's, woo, I'm out of here. No, we built the company, had to get it off the ground. And then it was a timing thing, right? When is the right time? And I think that is the key of knowing. It's knowing when the time is and setting a time for it. But it's also taking a look at, is this good for me? What I'm doing right now, is this helping me, or is this hurting me? And I think that's the real question everybody needs to ask themselves. Is this helping me, or is this hurting me? And, you talk about, well, I've invested so much in this. Oh my God, I've put so much time and energy in this. Or, oh my God, I've tried to save this person. Well, at some point, you're investing so much. What are you getting out of it? What's benefiting you? And are you putting your oxygen mask on? And that's the key. And I have to tell you, I was the worst procrastinator in the world. And then I started finding these tools that really helped me. And now I've done it with myself. I've done it with my teams, and they've exceeded and won awards. And I've done it with my kids. They hate it, but it works. But I think, that's the long-winded answer to your question, Jeff. But there's also a thing called micro habits. You can make change in your life by putting small little habits in place, and then over 3 to 6 months, they just become part of who you are. It's like building a brick wall, right? One brick at a time. And if you put those micro habits in place, the change will come. But the other thing too is, you got to be patient with yourself. Stop beating yourself up. If you need to make the change and you stumble and you fall, just get back up. We're human. We're going to make mistakes. Stop being your biggest critic. Get back up and get back on the horse. And, you might need to adjust the sails, right? Your plan might need to change. And this is the one thing, and I'll end on this with leave, is never change the goal, change the plan. So if your goal is to help change people's lives for the better, and your current course isn't working, change the course, but stay focused on that goal, right? And I think that's the important thing. When someone told that to me, I was like, wow, that is profound. And it's true. It's true.
I have nothing to add. Because we sing the same song and our lyrics are eerily close to one another as well, because it's just one of those things that people need to listen to this episode more than once. They need to get your book. And you didn't come on to sell your book and to sell everything. You just wanted to come and share. And thank you for sharing today, because it really, as you can tell, it's got me excited. So your passion, your excitement, your dedication to really explaining the 5 L's is helpful. And I know that just the two that we touched on, so we only got, what's that, 20-ish% of what we talked about of the overall 5 L's will save someone's life today. There's no question to me. And understanding those different levels that Michael shared, and I'll add something to the leave part, is seek counsel.
Yes.
If you're looking for that decision of when is it time, is to ask people the question that you're asking yourself, but with someone who's a little bit more removed, and then find somebody that's not emotionally invested at all in you and ask and seek counsel, because you'll start to gain some clarity. You may not like what they say, but that's probably because they're saying what you know is what needs to be heard. But it also could challenge you. Like you said, is the goal's the same way, and say, look, I'm not changing off this goal. Help me find a different pathway to get there. So Michael, thank you for today. I want to be very respectful of your time. So what would be some parting words that you'd like to leave the audience today?
Yeah. So the last thing I would say is, it all goes back to self-love. If you want to find balance in your life, if you want to find happiness in your life, you've got to practice self-love. And I'm going to say something to your audience, and I really hope everybody hears me when I say this. You're worth it. You're worth it. And start practicing that self-love, and you'll see how the other 5 L's start to fall into place and how much better your life will be. And I have to tell you, I have been practicing my 5 L's for the last 5 years, and I run into people from my old world, and they're like, "Oh my God, you look younger. You've lost weight, and you look happy." And yeah, I am. But I'm not going to say there's not going to be bad days, because I have bad days. Everybody does. But you're able to get through it a lot better when you're focused on your 5 L's. And I really hope everyone does, and I really hope your listeners took away at least even a little bit of something that might have changed their life, because then if they did, then, as my father would say, I was successful.
That's awesome. Thank you. So how can people find, follow, and support you?
Sure, absolutely. Well, www.unparalleled with ed performance.com. We're on every social media you can think of, even TikTok, but I'm not dancing or doing any musical theater. But we're on there as well. But we're literally, we post all the time, a lot of positive things out there. You can follow us on our website as well too. And you can also pick up a copy of our book. We're on Amazon. You can buy it through us. Barnes & Noble. We're actually doing a whole Barnes & Noble book tour this holiday season. So there's, just Google the 5 L's, the gift of balanced life, and we'll pop up left and right.
Yep, that's great. And then for everybody, if you want to go to the show notes, I'll get everything from Michael to make sure you have access to all that. And I would imagine if you just go to the website, everything that you need of what he just shared is there. So that's probably your one central place that I would drive you to get all that information. But Michael, thank you for today. I'm grateful for you and grateful for Sal for coming back and sharing that aha moment and got you all excited. And I'm sure he rolled his eyes when he's like, all right, Michael's coming up the sidewalk. But I know now he's grateful for that, and the world is as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. This was truly an honor. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Everybody, Michael Mannix. Thanks for joining us on the Pathways to Greatness podcast. We hope that today's conversation inspired you to take steps towards your own greatness. Remember, every journey starts with a single step. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might benefit. Actually, share it with 3 people that you might think it might benefit. Until next time, keep pursuing your passions and carving your own path to greatness. Take care.